Welcome into this week's edition of AWA Unleashed. We are the preeminent podcast and video stream dedicated to the legendary American Wrestling Association. My name is Chris Tubbs, and after a week away, because every once in a while, you gotta, I don't know if it's a loser leaves town. I don't even know. We didn't even do a gimmick here, guys, left the territory, but now we're back. And excited because this is a topic this week that it's kind of hard to quantify, right? I mean, what exactly are we going to be talking about? Before I get into the thanking of the sponsors, Mick, how would you describe the topic today? Because I don't even know quite how to describe it.
Well, let's say this. Throughout the years, wrestling fans have gotten a reputation. There are a few of them out there that stand out as perhaps a little more off kilter than others, either from a personality standpoint or maybe they got involved in the action when they shouldn't have. The same goes with people that work behind the scenes, the vendors, the program salesmen, etc. So we're going to spotlight those people because if you grew up going to wrestling matches at some point or other, you came across these individuals. So it's kind of from the ridiculous to the sublime to the bizarre, but they're all unforgettable characters, at least for George and I.
And I would add that most of the experiences we're going to be talking about are the characters that we came across in Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is our homeland. Many of you, as we tell these stories, you will be able to recall maybe some character in your own arena or studio.
Our homeland.
In your homeland.
Our homeland.
Our homeland.
You make it sound like we're in some
Hey, trust me, sometimes I think we are. But the other
man.
thing I would say is that there were times, too, when these individuals, a lot of the wrestlers would play into what they were doing as well.
Yeah.
These characters that we're going to talk about sometimes became part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Good
so it's going to be a fun one.
So that's what we're going to do today. Want to thank our sponsors. First of all, I want to thank Lift Bridge. You can see them up in the corner. Great beer, great pop, super cool swag. Check them out at liftbridgebrewery.com. I mean, it's summertime. You want some brewskis. There they are. I mean, everything they've got tastes chef's kiss. So I've been known to enjoy a Lift Bridge or one or two here or there. And also Soda Stick. Guys, we have been breaking out some brand new things when it comes to Soda Stick. And Mick, you've got the Met hat on. I've got the Skull hat on. We have got AWA Unleashed t-shirts. We have got the personalized hoodies, and we have got a lot of really cool things. And the personalized hoodies, I think that's something that people are going to absolutely love. If you haven't gotten them yet, go to sodastickco.com and just search AWA Unleashed. That'll bring you to the landing page where we've got two products. We've got t-shirts and we've got personalized hoodies. I know, Mick, you've got yours. Yep. George, you've ordered yours as well. I've got mine. My wife has got hers. My daughter's getting hers. I absolutely love it. So it's when I talk about a one-of-a-kind item, the personalized hoodie, guys, that's just for you. Like nobody else can have your hoodie because you can put your name, you can put whatever you want on it. You can put Slappy, you can put your name, you can put whatever you want. Like you can give yourself your own gimmick, whatever you want. That's kind of cool.
Slappy?
What?
How about Joey the Chimp?
Don't start with Joey the Chimp. That's a story for another day.
All right, you guys. All right. No chimp talk, guys. Come on. No chimp talk. Speaking of, I can't even make the transition. Let's just go to some trivia here, Mick, before we get into it. I pride myself on transitions, and I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to be able to make that transition. So go ahead.
No. No, you're not.
Go ahead and give us the trivia winner from last week.
Trivia winner from last week is Rob Anderson, Marshall, Minnesota. I gave you a list of wrestlers, a couple of which did not do color commentary for the AWA during their stint as wrestlers here. And yes, even Jimmy Garvin did. The wrestlers who did not were Dennis Stamp and Rock Riddle. They did not do color commentary for the AWA. So, Rob Anderson, congratulations. Send you some merchandise courtesy of yours truly and the podcast.
All right. So there we go. Let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. Let me go ahead and let's kick it off with you, Mick, as I'm bringing up the talking points. We know that you guys mentioned that wrestling fans have a reputation. I want to ask you guys, both of you, to weigh in. How have wrestling fans and the fan base, how's that changed over the years? Why don't you go ahead and go first, Mick?
Dramatically. Back in the day, two things. First of all, wrestling fans believed, at least a good portion of them, what they were seeing. They had that proverbial suspension of disbelief during the time that they were sitting in the arena. And a lot of times, unfortunately, that led to some violent behavior on their part. The modern day wrestling fan, I don't think it's any different in a lot of cases from, you buy or you get tickets to see a sitcom. You're in the audience, you're part of the action. They're holding up the signs. They're chanting 15-year-old phrases or, letting the wrestlers know when they missed a spot or two. So I think the whole dynamic and the demographic has changed night and day.
I think if you were to look at how fans have changed just from a viewpoint, when you turn on television and you see the fans in the arena and or the TV studio, that has changed drastically over the decades. We can remember back in the 50s when they'd show the audience and the men were dressed in suits, wore hats, smoked cigars. The ladies were in dresses. Some of them looked like nightwear, to go to the ball. And then you got into the fans just able to come in and have a T-shirt and blue jeans on, be average, scream and yell. And you could never bring a sign in for the most part in the old arenas that we went to. But today, you turn on any of the major wrestling shows and it's just a field of big posters, billboards. Honest to God, it's different. I had one that was taken from me when I made one in 1968. The ushers told me, you can't put that sign up there. You're going to block someone's view. So yeah, it's changed a lot. The fan base has changed.
Let me ask you guys this, kind of a follow-up, and I didn't have this on the sheet. As the internet has become more prevalent, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this, more casual fans have been they've got access to more background and more terminology and more of the wrestling insider slang. And I see you nodding your head there, George. I know we always want to know more about the business, but is there, to kind of piggyback off what you were talking about, Mick, is there kind of a lack of respect from fans nowadays because everybody's got access to this information and everybody can be an expert and everybody can critique based on what they see or read or hear? Or am I just maybe pigeonholing a lot of it here?
I think you're being kind, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Everybody's a keyboard warrior now, and you can blame the internet, but part of it you got to blame the business. You have to go back to Vince McMahon opening up the door and breaking kayfabe and letting it all out there what the business is, and then you have the dirt sheets, with the grading systems and what have you. And back in our day, wrestling bulletins, they gave you results and they'd let you know who was coming to a territory. Wrestling bulletins and online newsletters today will let you know who walked out, what the contract dispute was, who's dating who's banging who, whatever it might be. And everybody becomes an expert. Everybody decides if a match is a 1-star, a 5-star. I think there's a limit Yeah, you can be your keyboard warrior and express your opinions, but when your opinions have nothing to do with fact and more about your own personal ego, I hate it. Personally, I can't stand it.
Well, and you got to keep in mind too that the internet has allowed all the wrestling fans to literally become geniuses and historians, and they can go to any number of incredible sites that allegedly tell the truth and give the facts. And the other thing is, there are still those fans out there that are typing away on their keyboards, remembering things that, honest to God, never happened, or they make it up as they type. And I've said that for years. So we've got these fans that are, yes, some of them are smart, but others, I'm sorry, they're complete morons when it comes to what they need to know about wrestling. They think they know more than they do. And I'm not afraid on the internet, and Mick, you know this, and people that know me, I'm not afraid to put them in their place. If you didn't see it, don't make it up.
Oh, you're a heel, George. You know, that means a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's what I read on the internet.
Yeah.
Heel means bad guy.
Yeah. Okay.
You're gonna bury the fans. That means you're gonna say bad things about them.
Let's tell stories.
I've seen that on the internet. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. I know the first one is, I'm just going to let you guys go. George, this is somebody that you guys talk about quite a bit. And tell me about him.
Well, we know him as Little Ricky. And if you were a fan that attended the St. Paul and Minneapolis cards on any regularity, I will tell you this, Little Ricky, he was known in the day, and this is not politically correct today, but he was known as a midget. And we had midget wrestlers. Well, Ricky was a midget fan, and he was at every card. And he would walk around the ring and be one of the most obnoxious. The only reason they let him walk around was because nobody had a problem seeing over his head. The guy was 3 feet tall. That was it. And he would come around and he would talk to the fans and he would get in their face.
And
I got news for you. And I mean this with no disrespect, but it's fact. He had a breath when he was talking to you that could stop a goat. It's fact. And as he's talking to you, he's spitting on your kneecaps and your shoes. So he was an interesting individual, but he would interject himself into the matches. When Dr. X was here, Ricky, he absolutely thought and believed in his little, and I do mean little heart, he believed that Dr. X was Buddy Rogers. And he would strut around the ring, Buddy Rogers. And I can't do his Buddy Rogers. And he'd keep doing it. Well, the doc eventually started taking pokes at him in the ring and mimicking him. The Crusher came up with a name for the doc. He said he's not a doctor, he's a quack. So he'd come out and he'd have a duck, quack, quack. Well, wouldn't you know, Little Ricky had to have a duck and quack, quack around the ring. And he'd walk around, quack, 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 quack. Interesting human being. And Hodis and Totus, that was Hennigan Race, the names that he was given by the doc. But Ricky's got a frog around the ring. Ribbit, 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 ribbit. Just an interesting human being. And he, back in the days when we had phone books, for you folks that don't know what they are, they were about this big and they had everything listed in it. Little Ricky found my phone number and he'd call me up on the phone. Pick it up. Hello? Jerry? He thought my name was Jerry. I liked it that way. Mick, I know you got some stories about this guy.
Well, I don't want to, give the guy his whole show here, but I will tell you a couple of things about Little Ricky. First of all, and we're not denigrating a whole group of people. This impression of Little Ricky is exactly as how he talked. He would talk like this. And what he would do, he knew that I was the president of the Bockwinkel Brigade.
Oh, yeah.
And he would wait for something to happen. Maybe Nick hit a guy with a foreign object. So the fans were at a fever pitch at the end of the night. And he'd see me at the end of the hall and he'd point and yell all the way down the hall, "There's Bockwinkel's fan club guy." Well, Everybody turned on me. I'll tell you another quick story. I love that, by the way, George, about, his breath could stop a goat.
Oh, maybe a whole herd of them. Seriously.
But one time, and I don't remember why I had to call Little Ricky, but I did, and I don't remember it was for a fan convention or something, but call him up. Hello? I said, Ricky, how you doing? Hang on a minute. Okay, there's a second goes by. Hello? Well, it was Little Ricky's dad that had answered the phone with the same voice as Little Ricky. I thought the guy was throwing his voice. I thought he was doing a Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney. I didn't know what he was doing. And then I thought to myself, what if his sister sounds the same way? But little Ricky.
I was going to say, I thought it might have been his mom that answered the phone.
Oh, my God. Little Ricky was legendary, but he was annoying as shit. But, he's certainly one of the more legendary fans. Go ahead.
And I will tell you that he is so legendary that when Vern Gagne did his The Wrestler movie in 73, if you watch it, Little Ricky is walking around the ring strutting. He made the movie.
He made the movie, and he became far more popular than you and I. Moving on, this is a guy that actually George knows a little bit better than I do, because George had to sit next to the guy. All I had to do was, put up with him yelling at me when I was a ringside photographer to sit down and get out of the way so he could, get a better look at Steve Regal or whatever. I'm talking about guy that George affectionately calls Jumpin' Jimmy Stifter. And George, I know you liked the man's attire. you loved his pants, his clothing. So I'll let you have this one.
Well, Jumpin' Jimmy Stifter, that was the name we gave him, the jumping part. The reason we did was because the man would come to the matches with a sport coat on that was literally a size or 2 or 3 too small. He'd have the sleeves up a little bit. And that's not all. His pants, which weren't blue jeans, I think they were supposed to be dress pants, they were up to above his knees, and he'd have white socks on. And I figured he was ready for a flood. I was always prepared that the auditorium was going to be flooded. And he would be in the wrestlers' faces. He'd never sit in his seat. I didn't understand. And I used to have this thing about, you buy a ticket, it affords you the right to sit in your seat. It doesn't give you access to everything in the auditorium. Jumpin' Jimmy Stifter, he believed that his area was anywhere he wanted to be. Just a pain in the, where.
Legendary. I'm going to pick up at this point. No, actually, you know what, George? Go ahead. You've got something about a guy with no teeth.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, oh man,
this is the whole arena.
I was going to say, we're gonna let George talk about somebody with no teeth.
Yeah, but you got to realize that most of the time when you looked around the arena, it could have been a convention for dentists to attend. This guy behind me, I think he was probably only about 70, but he probably was a lot older. He believed in his heart of hearts that pro wrestling was real. God bless him for that. They convinced him. But he had this situation every time the bad guy, it didn't matter who it was, would get away with something and the referee would miss it. And usually it was poor Chuck Svensson. Man, he was a good referee. Chuck was. Because Chuck every once in a while would take the bad guy and maybe give him a pop to pull him off or something.
Yeah.
But every time Chuck would miss the bad guys fouling his babyface opponent, this monkey behind me, he says, "Bought off referee, bought off referee." And the wrestler would have to shut up, bought off referee. He believed it. And he's in my ear right behind me. It's like, please sit down. Not to mention, I started wearing a cap because I realized that the top of my head was getting wet. That was this no-tooth individual. And he did. I think he only had 2 teeth. I'm sure dental floss wasn't a problem. He probably just used rope.
You know something, George? There was also a guy, and I don't know if this was the same guy. And mind you, you're at a wrestling card. Whenever this fan got bored, he would yell, "Boy, what a ball game." And I'm thinking, where the hell am I? Am I at that stadium? Did Tony Oliva just strike out? What happened? But anyway, needless to say, moving on to a guy who is really a beloved character, and this is they called him Grandpa Nick, and his name was Nick DeGidio, and Nick was an old timer from Northeast Minneapolis. Religiously went to the TV tapings every week, not so much at the auditorium, but he was at television each and every week. He got tickets. They loved him. They called him Grandpa Nick. He was always in the front row. Usually had a Dr. X t-shirt on and suspenders, you know, so he was certainly the height of fashion back in the day. He was the resident cheerleader. The wrestlers would give him a hard time. Of course, the heels, they would go back and forth with him, but lovingly. You know, they would take a shot at him, but, you know, it was all in good fun. Grandpa Nick, believe it or not, here's a guy that goes to TV matches for 34. And the man collapsed at the TV studio one night. I mean, this is his last television taping that he went to, and they were in a tape break or a commercial, whatever. I look over and I see Grandpa Nick sitting in the front row, and he slumped over. And all of a sudden, you know, Bob O'Brien and security, the police go over and they attend to Nick, Grandpa Nick. And I went up and saw him in the hospital a few days later. Apparently, he had some type of a cardiac aneurysm or something like that, right as he's sitting in the front row of the wrestling matches, and he succumbed to it, you know, maybe a week later. But I'm thinking to myself, boy, what a way to go out. You know, this is your passion. You're the resident cheerleader. You've built up your own following. People love you, and the lights turn out right front row at the TV studio matches. But legendary Grandpa Nick.
A very endearing character and a nice guy to boot, and they always made reference to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was loved, really.
Go ahead, George.
We can be nice some of the time.
You got a good one here.
I'm going to talk about a wrestler. A wrestler. He wasn't a fan. But this individual, he would make sporadic appearances after the early 60s to the Twin Cities. And he was known as Joe Scarpello. Absolutely one of the greatest amateur wrestlers and a real good pro. Just never really took the pro side 100% seriously for a career, because he could have went farther than he did. But Joe had a unique, I guess it would be a unique thing that he did. He always made sure when he was wrestling in the St. Paul Auditorium or Minneapolis, he would pick out a lady fan sitting at ringside that would happen to have a skirt on. And I'm telling the God's truth here. And every time during that match, not once, not twice, probably 2-3 times during the course of his match, he would have his opponent toss him out right in front of that lady and or practically on top of her lap. And we know he was probably in it for the show, haha. But that was Joe Scarpello. We'd always laugh. Watch, that's the one he's going to go to. And sure enough, there they'd be.
He was a good friend of Vern Gagne's. Joe was a great amateur wrestler, and when he would come to Minnesota, the Twin Cities, he would actually room at the Dyckman Hotel in the back room of the wrestling office. That way Vern, you know, saved on a hotel bill for Joe or whatever. But yeah, an enduring character. But yeah, Joe Scarpello liked his women, no question about that.
It was only a cot. It was a small cot in the wrestling office.
Well, the guy was 5'7". I mean, you know, we didn't need, you know.
Well, wait a minute. That's okay. Go ahead.
Anyway, moving ahead.
Yeah, these are kind of stories that we've heard a lot of these stories, so I'm kind of curious about this, because haven't we touched on this one before?
We have, but
okay.
I think this one certainly needs to be mentioned again. You know, we've talked about the fans with the liquid courage. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, you know, if their girlfriend is there, their wife or their buddies, and they've had a little too much, they're a little bit schnockered, they want to be a big shot. And one particular night, a fan was following Larry Hennig back to the locker room after Larry's match. Larry was still a heel at the time. He was Pretty Boy Hennig. And this fan has his girlfriend with him, so he's yelling at Larry, screaming, you're this, you're that, you ba, 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 ba. And he's not only annoying Larry Hennig, but Larry walked into the locker room and, tuned the guy out. The cops had about enough of this guy. And normally they'll just push him to the side and say, hey, enough of that. But they asked him, do you want to go into the locker room and talk this out with Larry Hennig? Guy looks around, his girlfriend, yeah, I'll go in there, and they opened the door for him. They shut the door. And within a matter of minutes, you would have thought that there was a 27-car crash on the freeway. There's Larry the Axe, or Larry Pretty Boy Hennig, Larry the Axe. Of all the people that you want to mess with or don't want to mess with, Larry Hennig? Are you nuts? So this guy, who, sloshed, you could hear the ocean roar as he went into the locker room, and you hear this banging around. He came out, and one part of his nose was here, and the other part of his nose was here, and maybe he had a beard full of nose. I'm not sure what it was. But the cop said, poor guy wanted Larry's autograph, and he tripped over a bench and face planted, and that's how he got bloodied up.
So remind me here, Mick, did Vern allow this? Like, if the heels or anybody was getting harassed to the point where it was over the line, did Vern give the boys, the talent, the carte blanche to say, all right, if this guy's going to be a tough guy, go out and mess him up, teach him a lesson?
No, you couldn't do that because you face lawsuits. And even if the fans were at fault, you couldn't encourage it. Every once in a while, things got out of hand, though, and you didn't have any choice. Adrian Adonis and Jerry Blackwell were two guys. They would go right up into the stands and go nose to nose with people. They didn't care. And if somebody took a swing at them, man, they would retaliate. But this particular night, when you got the cops on your side, as Larry Hennig did, opening the door for this clown, but no, did Vern condone it and encourage it? No.
Okay. I was just kind of curious when it comes to that, how it was viewed then compared to to how it is now. George, I know that it looks like you've got a couple of them here coming up.
Well, one of them is kind of personal, just because when you're sitting at your ringside seat, I had a ringside seat right in the center of the aisle, and I had two guys that sat next to me. I called them Mutt and Jeff. My friend Gary Lodge has some different names for them, but Mutt and Jeff, one was big, one was small. And the problem is that the one that always sat next to me was the bigger guy. And I mean, he almost took up two chairs. So it wasn't comfortable. That wouldn't have been as bad if these two guys would have just showered at least a week before they came to the arena. Honest to God, he smelled so bad. This is BO it was BO on top of BO. And their clothes, I mean, they weren't even fit to be bought at a Goodwill. It was terrible. I don't know where they come from. And I used to say, where do they go when they leave here? Where? Because I didn't get it. And at times I would bring my young daughter, and I'd always put her to the other side of me. And she even commented, Daddy, what's that smell? It's like, excuse me. But yeah, and I don't know what their names were. I never talked to them. I had to stay turned a little bit. And I didn't understand it. They could have at least showered. That's all.
You gave me a great idea for some merch. We'll just slap the AWA Unleashed logo on some deodorant. Bang.
Hey, trust me, they'll buy it.
$1 million idea, Tubbs.
That ought to sell one.
My God. Love that story.
I think we've all had that issue where the unkept wrestling fan. I think that's
we don't want to we're not denigrating all wrestling.
No, we're not. No, we're not. These were a couple of stinkaluffuses that were next to you, George.
Well, and the guy, honestly, you had to smell it to believe it. Really.
I'm getting sick just listening. Can we move on now?
Yeah, I tell you what. Yeah, Mick. Let's go ahead, and I'm just looking at the notes here. Yeah, why don't you? You go to your next one. Oh, this one. I don't know, but based on the verbiage, I'm very curious about it.
Are we talking about the vendor?
Yeah, something about vendors and sucking thumbs and.
Yeah. George will know this guy.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a guy, he was a vendor, and he was around for a while. He was at both these Twin Cities matches in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And this guy would go around hawking programs or, peanuts or whatever he was selling. He'd make his way through the crowd. Well, he hated the heels. So, mind you, here's a guy who's selling stuff. As he's doing this and making his way through the crowd, he's screaming at the heels. He's screaming at Bockwinkel or Heenan or Ray Stevens, whoever it is. Certainly not. He's not being an unbiased vendor. In between screams and insults, the man is sucking his thumb. So if you can envision this, Chris, and God, hopefully I'm remembering correctly, and he was not selling hot dogs, but can you imagine? The guy is sucking his thumb, and then he reaches in to get whatever stuff was there and hands it to you.
Oh my God! No,
Can you just imagine?
No.
And this guy, he was around for a while, so there obviously wasn't a labor shortage at the time, and they got this guy. But yes. And many, many times I would get on his case and say, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And he would look at me like I was from another planet, and he would continue sucking the thumb.
So he would suck the thumb, and he would put that thumb on the food and give you the food, and it was fine.
Well, it was fine by him, And the wrestling fans were probably facing the ring watching, Ron Ritchie.
So they didn't see it.
In the opening match, and they didn't see it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Imagine that.
Oh, wow.
He would literally stop as he's walking around, stop and suck his thumb watching the action in the ring. Literally. True story.
I would warn people. Yes.
Exactly. You look just like him.
You really do. Well, let's try to put the time frame here. Now he's probably a little bit older. But anyway, can you imagine having to check your hot dog? You have to.
Wait a minute here.
Whoa!
You got to check your hot dog for a thumbprint, but that's.
Oh boy!
You probably don't want to go. But
I just got lightheaded just when you just said you got to check your hot dog for a thumbprint.
Thumbprint, yeah. But true story. True story. He was there. Oh God!
I don't think a finer phrase has ever been uttered on this show.
Well, yeah, now that we've lost everybody.
Go ahead, God. George.
All right, let's do. Why don't you do one more, George? You do one more, Mick. Then I don't even know. All right, let's. George,
I'm going to talk about fans. We all know that sometimes the fans would interject themselves into the action, and of course, thank God for the at the time limited security we had at the arena and the ushers. This was a time when I was sitting ringside. Mick, I know you were there. The Redheads, Bastien and Lyons, were in a death match against Mad Dog and Butcher Vachon.
Yep.
During the course of the match, Mad Dog was tossed out onto the ring apron outside the ring ropes. This fan from the front row came running up, literally had a knife in his hand, was coming at the dog on the apron. Now, this was a time when security was intervening, but also Red Bastien stood in center ring and tried to protect the dog from what was going to happen. And a fan from that same general area took a chair and threw it into the ring, hitting Bastien in the shoulder, literally hitting him. And I remember seeing the big welt that happened on Bastien's shoulder. And this Mad Dog is trying to be pulled out. Red's trying to pull the dog out of the way. So he kind of broke kayfabe there because he was there to protect the dog. And the usher and a police officer wheeled this monkey out of the arena that's got this knife. But this is a time when the fan, had there not been that intervening and Bastien absolutely stopping the action for a moment, Mad Dog could have taken a serious injury. And you wonder, and that was one of the things the wrestlers would often tell you, that they feared the fans most of all, because their job sometimes was to irritate them and frustrate them and make them hate them. And sometimes they went too far. And that was a scary moment. I remember it like it happened yesterday.
So when it comes to things like this, where fans get a little overzealous, was security ever smartened up to certain things, or was security, to your guys' knowledge, guys, were they ever told, hey, if you see something like this, to jump on it? Or was it just, you just have to always, read and react?
They weren't always informed,
right,
of something that might happen that was planned by the wrestlers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
There were incidences, Bob O'Brien would be one, where he was at times brought into the loop. And Bob O'Brien was the one that you would most see at the studio matches. But Bob was there. But generally speaking, the police were not involved in knowing an angle that they were a storyline or something they were going to work out.
Mm-hmm. You
just had to hope. And you got to realize, we didn't have security back then like we do today. We'd have maybe one or two police officers, and they were off-duty police officers.
Okay, and that's also something I was gonna ask, is what kind of security did you have? Because now we have a lot of the, these security companies that have like bodybuilders and guys that you would be intimidated by. You're like, okay, I'm not gonna try anything. But did people? I mean, were the security? Did it look like they could have been taken advantage of? Am I saying that the right way? Because sometimes fans will look at it, they're like, well, I can obviously get past that security card to do whatever it is that I want to do.
You know what? I think it's more so like that today than it was back then. The security guys that I remember, and we got a couple of talking points here that will address that. But there were a lot of times big beefy security guys. I mean, I know the AWA had guys that probably weighed about 3 bills. At least, they were in proximity of the ring. So if somebody got out of hand, they would get right in there. And George mentioned Bob O'Brien, the police officer. And that actually leads into my next story. And this also has to do with fan violence.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll talk about that a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, it sometimes went absolutely crazy, and riot situations. I mean, full scale riots, no BS, the real deal.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and stop it right there, guys, for part one, because I know that we've still got a lot of things, and I don't want to shortchange these stories, because I know there are a lot of things that you guys want to talk about that are still the bullet points there. And one thing that I want to do is make sure that we continue to give these, because these are events and these are individuals that a lot of people, they remember. And I don't want to just give them some, couple of bullet points, so that way we can kind of get it into our time frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop part one, and then we're going to have part two coming up next week. So there's going to be no trivia. I'm just going to, as we say, card subject to change, as you guys would say. We are going to go ahead and cut it off here, and we're going to come back with part two next week. So, guys, it's been fun so far, and I'm looking forward to part two coming up next week.
We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of stories yet to tell.
As they say, the best is yet to come.